Hello and welcome to this tutorial. This tutorial is going to be using AutoCAD 2021, but it'll also work with other AutoCAD prerequisite systems such as AutoCAD 2020 all the way down to AutoCAD 2004. This tutorial uses the same functions, features and tools as any prerequisite AutoCAD. It just happens to be the user interface may be slightly different. But again, if you use the tools and the shortcuts using the command bar, you should be able to replicate this across the whole range. So today, this tutorial is going to focus on using features such as the mirror feature, which we're going to draw a section of our shape and then mirror it across a asymmetrical line so that we don't have to basically decrease our workload, not having to draw every single component. Also, we're going to be using some other features such as the arc tool. We're also going to use the circle tool, both diameter and radius. We use the line tool, the offset command, and we're also going to look at some features such as rotation and also look at doing a couple of dimensions on our layers. So let's break down this drawing and let's get started. So this drawing here, it has one line of symmetrical symmetry, which is straight through the center of our part, which I've highlighted as yellow. Because this shape isn't actually standard sized, it doesn't actually have a line of symmetry through the x-axis or the horizontal line, so we can only mirror from left to right or right to left. One feature you probably noticed that isn't symmetrical is this section here, but again, we'll add that section in last so the overall shape can be developed and mirrored across nicely. So let's start by realistically breaking this down into nice sizable chunks so it's not a big scary drawing. So I'm going to first off put a construction line which will give me these two set points which I've marked in blue. From that I can create a series of offset lines for my construction which can allow me then to put in fellow points such as here and up here. This will allow to set the dimensions and also allow me to draw in these features. Areas which I commonly do not know, which I'm going to mark as a red X, is areas such as here, 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 and here. So these lines are actually using what we call a tan or a tangent line. We can actually only take these points from these green dots. Therefore, we can only physically make these components if we trim away the rest of our circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to basically set up, and then we're going to get going with this drawing. I'm going to break it down piece by piece. So I'm in AutoCAD. The first thing I'm going to do is check my units, and the units I'm going to be using are precision. I'm going to do to 2 decimal places and make sure I'm in millimeters because that's what this shape has been drawn in. Okay, to accept this. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from the 0, 0 mark. I'm going to draw it sort of 250 mil in length just to give me an idea of size when I'm zooming in and zooming out. So I know that that line is 250 millimeters. So most of my drawing will fit in this zone here. I've also got some layers such as my drawing layer, my dimension layer, my construction layer. And I've also got like a vision layer for when we come and do some different interpretation, just to allow the non-block colors from the construction lines. If you'd like to learn more on how to set this up, I have a couple of other videos about setup tutorials, layers, templates, and properties that you can obviously have a look in the link below. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use what we call an xline, which is a line to a non-designated length. And I can rotate this around a fixed point, which is acting as my construction line. So I'm going to put 1 and 1 like so. So this is going to form the center line, which is essentially I've marked in yellow, and my baseline, which I've also going to mark in yellow as well. So my baseline, which is going to run across this path here. So I need to half these dimensions because obviously I'm only mirroring half. So I'm going to have my first line is 30, my second line is 30, and this will allow me then to set up for this arc of R20. So let's let's make a start. So first off, I'm going to use the offset tool, and I'm going to take my middle line and offset this by 30 millimeters. So I'm going to click, move to the left, click again, move to the left. This has got my two first points, from my center out 30, and my second line 30, which is going to start my arc. Just so I remember that this is my center line, I'm just going to color it a different color. So I'm going to use yellow just so I can see that this is my center. I'm also going to color this one yellow because it's my base, so I know that I'm not getting confused with the different colors. So what I'm now going to do is I now need to do a offset. I know that my arc is 20, so it's got a radius of 20, so I'm going to lift that up 20, and then I'm going to color this one back to red, just so I don't get confused with my base. This point here, the intersection point here, is now the overlap for my radius arc. So using the radius tool, okay, for the circle, choose my center point, I'm going to put R20 in, and there's the first line of my arc. Now you'll notice this point here, the R20 shares the same center point as the R8, so I'm also now going to put my R8 in, just so I'm in that same feature, like so. Also this R8 here, which we know is a set distance away, which we can put in from 10 mil, but I need to know where this particular grip is, which I'll do at a slightly later date. So next up, we need to work from our second baseline on the x-axis, where we need to put the 50 in, which will give us this line here, which will allow us to view this feature here. So what I'll be able to do is put that green dot in, which will then allow me to set up so I can produce my tangent line running into my arc. So I'm going to offset 50 mil. So offset again, 50 millimeters from my bottom base, which will then go yellow, which I'm going to, now I'm just going to return color into blue, just so I know where I am. Next thing we need to do is working from our center point. So this yellow line here, we need to work from the yellow line out to this line here. So I know that here on the drawing it's designated as 42. So the last thing I need to do, I'm going to keep this line also blue, is offset 42 from my center point. I'm also going to color that the same bluey color like I did before, just so I know that that is the point of my green splodge on my drawing. Just coming down to the snap tool down here. Okay, just make sure for this you have the tangent tool turned on, otherwise the tangent snap won't work when we're drawing against our arc. So again, zoom in, get nice and close. I'm going to come to my drawing layer, come to line, use the first snap point as my intersection on my blue line, and I'm going to come along, and you can see now there's a green circle with a line above, which is my tangent point for that shape. I'm going to click to accept and escape to cancel the function. So this is now the first part of my arc. So all I need to do now is just convert these two from the construction layer into my drawing layer, and just trim out the rest of the circle that I don't need. Like so. So that's now my first arc feature, which is down here. Okay, so now we put our tangent in, and we're going to work on our next part. So what I now need to do is I need to put this step feature in here, so that when I mirror this component across, I've got those full features involved. So again, we know that this also features our second circle with 10 and 14. So from our first offset, which was 30, I now need to basically use that grid reference, and the grid reference I have for this line here to put the line of 14 in, and I can then put my center of my circle in 10 there. So Once again, I'm going to now use the 14. So I'm going to actually offset my red line, which is why it's good that these colors contrast. I'm going to find my first point, which also is red, which is here, which is 30 mil away. I'm just going to check by putting a linear dimension in this point to this point, and it's 30. So I'm going to map from my arc, running along, coming up to my construction line and coming into the center. I'm just going to remove my dimension line because I don't need it anymore. So I'm going to convert this to my dims, and I'm just going to turn it off. So there's that feature now. So now we need to work on the next part, which is joining up the top elevation. This is where we're now going to work on this next raised section here. So we've done our tan element. Okay, we're now up to the line of that blue dot. So we have to put up to this blue dot, which is again a line of 20. So just put a line in, choose my start, snap point, bring it up the blue line, type in 20. And now we're at our next point to start working on our tangent. That's going to be this point from, again, the green dot to the edge of my arc, which I don't actually know the set dimension as of yet. So what I now need to do is come to this blue cross, which I have now colored green, and start the feature running across. I need to put 65 in here and then follow the arc round to then line up my tangent line. So I need to offset from my 20 line this remaining 40. So again, what I'm going to do now is just use the offset command, 20 mil for my construction, and then a further 40 mil for the final height. So once again, so this is nice and easy to use. I'm just going to color it slightly different so it's easy for me to view. So I know I'm now working in this orange zone. That's what I need to do is offset my center line 65 to gain the edge, like so. And again, I'm going to leave that one probably yellow because it's a nice contrast between the blue, red, and the orange at this stage. So from my line, I'm going to put in my first section there to there, which is 65. Okay, so first of all, we're going to put in this first R15 from this cross line here. Now, obviously, this starts from the edge of my 65 line or the 130 if you go for width. So I know that this is going to be R15, so this has to be 15 mil away from the center point. So there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the arc function this time rather than setting up a grid construction. So I'm going to use, I can have use start center end for this one, or I could do start end angle as well as also another possibility. But I think start center end is the best tool because I can click the functions. So you can use my snap point. Okay, specify the center of the arc. It's going to run along this yellow point. So I'm going to put in 15 because it's an R15. And I want the angle to end at 45 degrees. So it doesn't actually elongate the whole circle. Now, if you look, hopefully you can spot this, there is an actual flat spot here. So this doesn't directly tangentially move into the next radius, and that's actually referenced from here. It's 0.44 difference between the two arcs. So what I need to do, okay, is from my point here, I'm going to put another line in, come down to my center point, which is 15, come across. I'm just going to now trim out my line. I'm going to leave that function there. Alternatively, you can actually draw a line from this one if you want to do 0.44, like so, and then you can just use the same tool as last time. There's my start point. However, you need to get the arc to sort of flick back this way and then come in and join at the bottom. So now the last thing to do is run my tangent line from here, which then brings it into that location. And I'm just going to trim out the remaining circle. So now when I turn my construction lines off, I have the profile shape, which I can then mirror. So before we go into that mirror stage, we're just going to put this last ovalized angle in. And this is the important information here, 15, 4, 4, and 9. So it's 9 from the edge to the edge, and then we put our feature in. So turn my construction lines back on. Okay, so this time it's 9 from the edge. So what I need to do is from my center point here, I need to offset this line. And to offset that 15 mil, which will put it on the edge of my radius. And then I need to take 9 back in to form my edge. Again, just to be nice and clear, you can sort of color stuff to make it nice and easy to view. Okay, so we're just going to work on our oval. So again, we've highlighted 15, 4, 4, and 9. That'll give us this edge here. No set dimension for the arc or the full circle, but it is actually an R6 because it's run off the same feature detail, which we need to put in. I've put my construction line in, which I've offsetted from 9, and then I've put a further line in just to give me a visualization. We know that the center points are exactly the same as our arc, so I'm going to hover to get the center point pick up, and I'll put R6 in, which touches my 9 line. Now what I'm going to do is I need to move this X line. So I'm going to do a move. I'm going to put it on the edge of my circle, so I know that that is the full designated width. Last thing we need to do is we need to get this height, because it isn't actually 15 in total. It's obviously 15, 4, 4. So there's going to be a small gap in between. So what I've done here is we need to work off of this center point and push the arc either side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line running off of the center point of the circle. Just going to use the polar tracking option. I'm going to draw a line in between. What I'm going to do now is trim the bottom. So I've only got half a circle. And now I can move this from my center point. I can move it up 0.44 like so. Now what I can do is then I can mirror this feature. I can mirror that around my baseline like so. Make sure you hit the enter button and then no rather than yes. No. And now I need to do a linear measurement from the top to make sure it's fit, which this will say 12.88. So what I now need to do is just offset this slightly more. So it needs to be 15.44. So again, what I can now do is just remove that. I can offset 7.72, this line above, this line below, and I can just move that feature to that location, move this feature to that location, and then put the lines down. Like so. Last thing to do is just change my 3 lines into my construction. Like so. Now when I turn them off, I have my overlay shape. Last thing to do, just quickly check top to top, 15.44. So that's my overall shape. Okay, what I now need to do is mirror this around and flip it. So I'm going to turn my construction line off, come into the mirror tool, select all my objects, hit enter, turn my construction line back on, choose a point on my center line, and choose another point and mirror it across. Noted the arrays. Now I've got a feature running backwards and forwards. So I'm just going to do just a quick quality check just to make sure I haven't messed any of my dimensions up. So I know that arc to arc is 130. I know that I should have heights 50, 20, and the last one should be 40. Like so. So I know that that is actually correct. So I'm just going to change these to my dimensions layer, which will then hide them. Okay, so the last thing to do is to put this circle feature in the middle with this R6 and offsetted little nug. Now, people will start to draw this at 135 degrees from the center point. The easy way to actually do it is to draw it at 90 degrees. So it's to plot it out essentially here and then rotate it around 45 degrees. So we know that the center of our circle is 45 away from our top line. So that's the first thing that we need to sort of do. So offset 45 from our orange line, which is going to put us in here. Now there's too many oranges again, so I'm just going to change this to a color that I'm more happy visually seeing. And I can put my circle in from my center location of 24. So I'm actually going to draw my nugging part here. So I'm going to need to offset. We know it's an R6, 6 mil, 12 mil diameter, either side like so. Then if you look at the drawing, if I just delete that section there, we know that it's 3 mil extension from the side of the circle, which then gives us the location for the RR6. So I'm going to draw the line in first. You could mirror it at this point. Sometimes it's just quicker just to do it overflow like such. I'm just going to change that onto the construction layer. Now I'm going to go into the circle tool, 6, and then trim. Like so. Now I turn my construction lines off. I've got that feature. I can now trim out that section there. So the last thing to do is essentially now we need to draw a line that's 45 degrees from our center point. So I'm going to do an X line from my center point. Choose the location, and obviously I can move that now to 135. Okay, so now I'm just going to check that this actually matches what the drawing's asking me to do. So I'm going to go to angular. I'm going to choose this line, this line. Okay, just remember that actually you can't pick up X lines because they're in length of infinited. So just going to draw over that one, just choose two baselines and just make sure that is 135, yeah, which is fine. So always double check with your drawings, means you don't make any mistakes. Now what we're going to do, rotate the object to this one. Again, you could do this without the construction lines on and just select all. I'm going to choose my base point, so I'm going to choose my center point. Okay, and now what I have to do is line up the rotation. Now, because I haven't got an angle, what I actually need to do is put a 45 in line here, which seems a bit bizarre because it wants me to latch on to there and there. So what I'm actually going to do is let's just put another X line in this way as well. Just tab 45. Change that to a construction line. It's because AutoCAD works in right to left rather than left to right. Just turn my construction layers off. Enter to accept. Choose my center point now. It's going to be the center of my circle. I'm going to line up with a point that isn't going to move, so I should choose the intersection between those two. Click to enter, and obviously now that part moves. I could, if I wanted to, actually rotate my construction lines as well. So I could sort of say I want 1, 2, 3, 4 to move from the center point as well, and just sort of choose a line. Like so. It's just to sort of allow any modifications needed at a later date, which is always also good to sort of handle, really. So let's turn my construction layers off now. There is my drawing. Last thing to sort of do would be to go through and put the dimensions on, but that essentially is our drawing complete. So what I'm going to do is turn my dims layer on. I've already started some of this. I've got my features. There isn't actually a 30. It's 60. So I'm going to come along and do point to point, point to point. So I'm about 10 mil away. Make sure you're in the right layer for this, otherwise you've got a lot of editing to do. And you can point to point. Make sure I'm in the right layer. I can also come along and do my radiuses. R20, R8. I try and make it look symmetrical as possible if I can. My R15. Remember that there is a set small measurement inside, so it'd be good to actually pick that measurement up for future drawings. Try and include anything that hasn't been included originally. So whilst I'm in this area, I'm going to try and pick up the two lines. So I can actually, anyone that comes to draw this at a later date can view that there is a 0.44 gap. So again, it's all about the detail. Come along here, I can put that it's obviously 9 away from the edge. Okay, this is going to obviously have a nice overlap. So what I'm going to do now is edit this part. I'm going to bring that feature like so, rather than having it cross-lined. It looks very messy if it's cross-lined. Point to point, 15 point there. So we've got both sides of our elements. Last thing to do is we need to look at putting in the center of our circle. Again, so we have a lot of overlap as well. So I'm just going to put there. I hate green lines overlapping everything, so this looks a lot more professional if it's neat and tidy. So there's my shape. Now I could actually put a line in. So if I lock it to the center point, like so, and what I can do now is put another radius line in. R24, try and line up, make it look pretty. Like so. And what I could do is actually put a line in just down the center. put it 15 long. And actually, when I come to do the angular one, I can choose the 2 lines. So it's 135 as well. So looking at the detail, we've got 60, 30, 10, 8s. So all that detail's there. The last thing I need to now do is just quickly run the construction line, and I need to put one final circle in at this location. Like so, which is my last R8. I can just copy that detail in here. So it's 10 mil, so it's 14 high. So I can go there to there, being 14. You probably picked up that I haven't actually drew this in the right place. So I'm just going to draw a line 10 away and then move my circle from my center point to that location. It's a good thing to do with AutoCAD. You've got so much flexibility in what you can do. And again, just going to pick up the edge rather than just make it look a bit neater. That's that section. Last one I do is the 10. That line. So there's our shape. I can just sort of start to move some pieces around, make it look quite nice. Now all I have to do is output this to my drawing. So I've made my template. Okay, set my scale. I don't think I can get a 2:1 on here, probably too big. Yeah, so usually it was 1:1 scale, like so. Go to my output PDF. Obviously, I need to fill up my title block, but this is just a tutorial. I'm going to do this process quickly, so I'm just going to save it as sheet metal part. Save. And then load up Adobe. So there we go. Now it's outputted. So there's my drawing on my title block. The only thing I'm going to do now is just tweak the color, just to make sure the color stands out enough on white paper. So much we maybe put it as a black rather than green. But essentially that's my part done, which I can now send away and get approval. So thanks for watching this tutorial. Again, please feel free to look through any of my other videos for AutoCAD, SolidWorks, Fusion. Thanks for watching.